Teamsters President James Hoffa. James, very good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Good to be here.
This was fully supported by unions, and just to be clear, you were consistent about this when President Obama rejected it. So you welcome this.
We welcome it because it's a beginning of working with unions to help rebuild our infrastructure, pipelines, whether it's Dakota Access, whether it's Keystone. This is a good beginning. Also, the president met with union leaders yesterday, and I met with him before that to talk about what we can do together, how we can work together to keep jobs in America. And he basically is very oriented on creating jobs. What he did with Carrier was terrific. What he did with Ford was terrific. Keeping those jobs here. And people are talking about investing in America and creating good jobs. I think he's off to a good start, and I encourage him.
You know, it's so weird, James, when you think about it, because it seems like upside down world right now. This is a Republican president, after all, meeting with union leaders, having one-on-ones with guys like you. That's not to say he's not doing the same with corporate leaders. He is, but again, he's not fitting typecast, is he?
I think it's important. He really is doing the right thing of reaching out to say he's president, of the whole country. He's not just, going to be the big business president. He's going to be the president of everybody here. I think it's important what he did with trade. Those were issues that we had major differences with the Obama administration, and the first thing he does is pull out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He's going to renegotiate NAFTA. We've been talking about this for 10 years, and finally it's getting done. So it's amazing that it's a Republican that's doing what we've been talking about all this time, about that we can make changes in trade and we can make changes that basically keep good jobs in America and make America competitive.
This is the same president, though, James, as you know, who's very keen on cooling it on these minimum wage hikes, that $15 goes too far. He's kind of hedged a little bit about what's an acceptable minimum wage, but he doesn't do everything to require. Does that worry you? Or do you think what he's doing now with these jobs and trying to protect these jobs and the overtures he's making to unions in general compensate for that?
Well, we have to work this out. We don't know where we're going with it. We obviously have to have a raise in the minimum wage, and it's happening almost in every state is raising the minimum wage. We really realize that the old minimum wage isn't enough. We're going to work with him to try and find the right minimum wage. It's got to be more than what it is now. We've got to help all Americans, especially those out there that are not fortunate enough to be wealthy or to have lots of money, like the people that are out there, and basically get these people a raise. And I think he realizes that, and it's a consensus. So what the number is, I don't know, but we're going to encourage him to make it as high as possible.
There had been talk, and it's not really ever gotten beyond that the administration, the Trump administration, is keen on putting a tariff on all imports that come into this country. They have refuted that. It still hangs out there, so I don't know what's true or not, I should posit. But how do you feel about that? Because some have listened to that, some corporate leaders, and said, whoa, that's a slippery slope, could lead to trade wars, never good for anyone down the road. What are you saying?
Well, I think it's a great beginning because I think that's one of the major things that made Ford do what they did. When he started talking about tariffs, whether he could do it legal or not, I don't know. But it's certainly going to stimulate a renegotiation of NAFTA. But that's a tremendous threat to start out by saying, I'm going to put a tariff on everything made in Mexico. And it's going to make it a lot easier to renegotiate NAFTA so it's fair for American companies to stay here and basically not have to move to Mexico to get cheaper labor.
What do you think of the move, and you kind of touched in the beginning, Jim, but this idea to re-encourage, get back to, hence the Keystone Pipeline thing, traditional fossil fuel energy, not to step aside away from new energy, solar, wind, what have you, but to re-emphasize what we have plenty here, where there are a lot of jobs. Coal, for example, keeps coming up, that this will be a president who will embrace that wholly and totally. How do you feel about that?
I think with regard to oil, it's important because, we see oil prices down. We're no longer held hostage to the Middle East. We basically can produce enough oil in this country, whether it's, whether we're going to do it through cracking or whatever we're going to do. But we've basically changed the dynamic of oil by lowering prices and be able to make America almost self-sufficient. So I think that's a tremendous thing. And I don't think oil is going anywhere. Obviously, the combustion engine, internal combustion engine, is going to keep out there. We need gasoline in this country. And and that's where it comes from. So I think it's going to keep on, and I think this is an emphasis. I mean, this is, you know, it might be long, right, someday we'll have other sources of energy, but right now it is gas and oil.
You know, the last Republican president to win over union folks, not in the majority, but certainly strongly, was Ronald Reagan. Is Donald Trump doing that right now? And should Democrats be worried?
Well, I think it's important to talk about the fact that he picked up the message that's been our message, and the Democrats did not emphasize. It's about jobs. It's about people being left behind, not having the opportunity to make a good living here in America. I think that's important, and that is something that he picked up, and he basically hit a core, you know, out there in working people, listening to him saying, boy, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get people back to work. And what he's doing right now, basically getting out of TPP, you know, going to renegotiate NAFTA. People want to hear that because it talks about them and their chances for a better life. That's what's important out there. So I think it's important. That was one of the messages, that was the message that won the election for him.
Yeah, indeed it did. James, you know, there's a lot of, you know, give and take on this, but this notion that Donald Trump could have more problems with his Republican base than Democrats because he is winning over guys like you, is talking up infrastructure type of thing, and some Republicans, conservatives are saying, well, wait a minute, we're spending money we don't have, we'll go into bigger deficits or add to our debt. What do you say to that?
I think he's going to have to show a lot of leadership, and I think Congress eventually will get in line. He is the President of the United States. I don't imagine him fighting that. Right now they're talking about, oh, you want to build a wall? How are you going to pay for it? You want to do this? How are you going to pay for it? He's basically saying, we're going to do this, and we'll find out how to pay for it later on. That's going to cause a problem with regard to, you know, the Paul Ryans and people like that want to basically balance the budget. He's saying we've got to be dynamic, we got to be aggressive, we got to go out there and build the wall. The things he talked about, he is basically going out and fulfilling, whether it's TPP, whether it's NAFTA, whether it's build the wall. You can see he's going right down the checklist. And he's not saying how we're going to pay for it. It's important to go out and do it because that's what I ran on, and that's what the American people expect.
And you support the wall building thing?
Well, the wall, I think we have to have an orderly operation with regard to our border. Anybody that has a country where anybody can walk in, I think, is a problem. I think we have to have an orderly issue of immigration. We can't have immigration. I'm not against immigration, but the answer is we have to have people come in here in an orderly fashion.
James Hoffa, Teamsters General President. Good seeing you again. Thank you very much. All right.